Hi guys, it's Amy. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm giving you the deets on living and teaching abroad yet again. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. So if you've been around this channel for a while now, you'll know that I was teaching in Madrid and it was genuinely the best experience of my life, not a joke. And it was because of the lifestyle that I was able to have, traveling, not a lot of working hours. And when it does come to teaching abroad in Spain in particular, you can renew for a total of 5 years maximum, but 2 of those years you can spend consecutively in the same region. So maybe some of you are wondering, oh, if you could have been a language assistant for another year in Madrid in a row, and it was the best time of your life, why didn't you renew? I'll tell you why. And this was generally due to a multitude of reasons. So yes, it was the best experience of my life. And I know it sounds so cringy every time I say that, but it was. I knew personally that my expectations for the following year just weren't going to be met. I had friends, for example, that were leaving the city, including my housemate, and I'm sure, as you guys can imagine, your home is a big part of your life. And I know that that's a really small reason and a stupid reason, because yes, you can meet new friends and you can have a really nice apartment the next year, but I just didn't want to ruin anything. But obviously this is a small reason and there are other bigger reasons. So on a similar level, I knew that the school was going to change a lot as well. A lot of the teachers who I really enjoyed working with, I became close with, were also leaving, because in Spain, until you pass a specific teaching test, you can only stay at school for 1 year and then you have to move on. So that working dynamic was going to change too. So literally nothing would have been the exact same, despite, even like friends are different, but yeah, your work environment is also going to change. And I was there for work, and for me, my work environment had to be, well, it has to be enjoyable, otherwise what's the point in working? I don't want to work in a place that I don't enjoy, and I know that teachers and your colleagues have a big part in that. But this is all playing into the same part, that my expectations were so high. If anything was under what I was expecting to have, if it wasn't going to live up to my expectations of what I had in my first year, then I didn't want it, because I was going to walk away feeling that the experience wasn't as good as it truly was, just because I had such high expectations. But the biggest reason is that I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to teach the same kids next year. And literally a huge reason, or the only reason for me wanting to renew, was to stay with these kids that I'd fallen in love with, and literally just watch them grow up. And I felt like I had a special bond with, and if the next year I had to teach the new kids and I watched the kids that I'd formed this bond with form a bond with another language assistant, it kind of would have been really sad, because it would be as if this bond that I felt like I had with them wasn't as special as it really is. They would have basically forgotten the bond that I felt was so special, and I would hope that they think that the bond that they had with me was special too. And obviously I know that this is true, like, I'm not with them anymore, so of course they're gonna naturally fall and have a bond with another teacher, but I don't want to have to sit and watch that, because then for me, in my mind, that bond was special and nothing can break that. Do you know what I'm saying? So nothing can ruin that expectation, even if that expectation isn't 100% logical. So if it's a purely emotional reason, but I'm an emotional sensitive being. And even despite that, maybe the next year I would have got kids that I didn't necessarily bond with as much. Again, it's not quite reaching that expectation that I had a really special bond with these kids. Like, I was playing chess with some of them for fun, and that wasn't like my job, you know? My job was to be an English teacher, and obviously there is so much more to being a teacher than just teaching. But you know, and the girls would tell me about their weekends and things like that, that I just really enjoyed having a bond with these kids. And I know that not everyone gets to have that special bond. Some people are just their language assistant, they don't really get on. So for me, that was really special to have that bond with the children that maybe I wouldn't have the next year if I had kids that we just didn't click as much. So even though I do nowadays get sad because I miss them so much, it does mean that it meant something to me, you know? And then even if I did get the same kids, maybe the novelty would have even worn out after a while, after teaching them for so long. And even though I do get sad that I miss them sometimes, it's the fact that I miss them means something, you know? It means that they were a special part of my life. And I wouldn't want that to wear away. And then maybe I would leave at the end of the second year thinking, well, that was all right. It was more than all right. That was extremely special to me. But maybe I wouldn't have looked back on my experience so positively. And I don't want to ruin that, basically. Forgetting the kids, maybe I would have had to teach the exact same content as I did last year. And I'm a person who gets very, very bored of things very, very quickly. Like teaching what is an apple. Again, I tell you, I would have lost it. But even though my job was great and I only had to teach 16 hours a week, I finished at 2 p.m, had the afternoon off, but the content of the day was kind of different. My schedule did change throughout the year. At times I was teaching 4-year-olds, which, to be honest, at first I was like, but it did grow on me in the end. But in some classes I felt more useful, shall we say, and in others I felt like there was no reason for me to be there. Sometimes I wasn't really needed and the teachers didn't really know what to do with me, so I ended up sitting on the side just watching them teach. Other times I was used to take kids out in groups of 2 or 3 and play a game with them just to reinforce their English vocabulary or grammar. But then I had to do that same game and repeat that about 60 times for 5 minutes every single day for 2 weeks straight, because you take one group of kids for 5 minutes and then you have to explain the game again and again to the next group, and then the whole class hasn't finished, and then you have another class who needs to do it, and it's like it's making me get annoyed thinking about it. And it was okay because some kids were quite chaotic and extremely funny and it made it really fun. But if I had to do the exact same thing with the exact same English content for the following year with the exact same games, I would have lost it. So not only was this quite boring after a while, it was extremely tiring. And I found myself checking the time to see when the next break was or when the end of the day was. And personally in a job, I don't want to be checking the time to see when I can finish. I want to enjoy every single moment to make it worth it. Because I feel that if you're not, you're kind of wishing your life away rather than being present. But that's just me and my mentality of life. So overall, in this sense, what I'm trying to say is that I needed a lot more responsibility in a job that it doesn't really give you, which is fair enough. You don't even need any teaching qualifications for it, so why should they give you any responsibility? But just a quick side note, I just wanted to reiterate that this is only my experience, and I know some people who were taken advantage of were running whole classes, so do just bear that in mind, that this is just my experience and your obviously might not be the same, and you know. So because of this, I felt that I needed to do something to further my career. Even if you do renew for a total of 5 years, you're still going to be in the same job at the end of those 5 years with no progression, because it's a dead-end job. The money never increases, your responsibility will stay the same, especially if you're moving schools, you're starting from scratch. You'll never get a promotion because there is no senior language assistant. That's it. It's language assistant and then an actual teacher, and because you don't have any qualifications to be a teacher, you won't be a teacher, you know? So the only positive for me in this sense was the lifestyle, the travel and low work hours. But because of this lack of money, and it was never going to get a pay rise, I didn't really end up saving a lot of money to do things that I wanted to do, like travelling, for example. Like being in the capital, Madrid, I wanted to go to Granada and see the Alhambra and go to Valencia, go to the beach. And because I didn't have a lot of money, I wasn't able to do these things. I did go to Malaga, luckily, when the borders opened. Well, that's another thing. That's another whole story, that the pandemic didn't allow me to travel because we were trapped in Madrid. But another story. This is just purely about money. I didn't have a lot of money to do things that I wanted to do. And I feel like in life I need money to do things that I want to do. So although the salary was manageable and you could still live and have fun, I just wanted more. And I don't think it's selfish of me to want more because it's my life, you know what I mean? And I just didn't want to be stressed towards the end of the month, because who does? About, oh my God, am I going to be able to pay my rent? Oh my God, am I going to be able to eat a nice meal? I don't want to be stressed about money. Like, who does? It's stressful. So I hope that this does make sense as to why I didn't renew as a language assistant for a second year in Madrid. And again, I do just want to reiterate that this is just my personal experience, and by no means does it mean that you shouldn't renew. because it's completely up to you. I know a bunch of people that are still renewed and are having a great time. It's just my personal reason as to why not. Do I regret renewing? Sometimes I do think maybe I did make the wrong choice, but it's a choice that I have to live with, and it's a choice that I accepted a long time ago, and I'm glad that I'm not doing that job necessarily, but I do miss the perks of it, of course. But yeah, I just like to give you guys my experience and my opinions so that you guys can make decisions for yourself if you've not necessarily experienced something like this. But if you did enjoy this video or / find it useful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good one. See you later.